Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first let's talk about Ukraine. We have a very interesting article published by the Bloomberg. Europe urges Zelensky not to withdraw troops from Donbas. Europe's main goal is to avoid a situation where Zelensky is forced to withdraw troops from Ukraine's Donbas and agree to a deal without serious American security guarantees. The Europeans plan to convey this message to the United States of America. For now, Europe is sticking to a strategy of publicly endorsing American efforts, believing that Russia will not agree to the terms. European diplomats report that the communication with the American and Ukrainian sides has been difficult recently. Europe is preparing for Trump to withdraw from the war if he fails to reach an agreement. With the US withdrawal, Europe will have to decide whether it can continue to support Ukraine both armed and financial. It remains unclear whether Europe will be able to develop a viable plan to continue funding Ukraine. So this is a very important situation. Another interesting insight today was published and stated by the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban. He said that European leaders are seriously determined to start a war with Russia by 2030. Hungary must avoid participating in it, Orban said. So this is the main point, and the point is that currently Europe is not ready to continue fighting with the Russian Federation through the territory of Ukraine, but they think and they believe, Europeans, that they will be able to prepare themselves before 2030. So, and from this logic and from this schema, the war in Ukraine must continue for another 4 or 5 years, which is obviously impossible. Now let's return back to Ukraine and let's discuss another important topic. According to information we have, during the previous 12 hours, during the previous night, the Russians carry out another massive attack with drones and missiles through Ukraine. And this is a third day in a row when Russians were bombing and attacking the territory of Ukraine with a significant number of drones and missiles. So, for example, this is the map by the morning of the 7th of December of 2025. This map was published several hours ago. As you can see from this map, the Russians attacked the central and the eastern parts of Ukraine. Especially, we can see lots of explosions took place on the territory of the settlement by the name of Kremenchuk. We will discuss this in a minute. So this is the map that was published yesterday, and here we can see the roads of attacks that took place between the nights between the 4th and the 5th of December between the 5th and the 6th of December of 2025. The Russians yesterday attacked almost the entire territory of Ukraine, and I would like to remind you that yesterday, according to information we have, Russians used more than 700 drones and missiles altogether. And this is the map by the 5th of December of 2025, and that was the beginning. That attack was the beginning of this massive attack through the territory of Ukraine during the previous 3 days. So we have calculated the number of drones and missiles that Russians used for those attacks during the previous 3 days, and the Russians, according to information we have, according to the estimation, used more than 1,000 drones and missiles altogether. So obviously that was the biggest attack since the beginning of the special military operation, and the most important that was the longest attack since the beginning of the special military operation. 3 days in a row, the Russians were using hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles to attack Ukraine with the purpose to destroy completely the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. As for the morning of the 7th of December of 2025, we know for sure that the Russians managed to deal a critical damage to Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Today, the state company Ukrenergo of Ukraine stated that improving the electricity situation will take weeks and not days. Most regions of Ukraine are now experiencing power outages lasting up to 16 hours. So the thing is that there are still no schedule for different parts of Ukraine for these power outages. It's just a critical situation, and nobody knows when exactly exactly this critical situation will be resolved. So this is the situation, and something tells me, and we believe, that in coming days the Russians will repeat the strike. So most likely in coming days Ukrainians will be able to stabilize the situation more or less, and then the Russians will carry out another massive attack, and they will try to destroy these facilities and these infrastructural objects that will serve for the stabilization purposes. And after the next attack, most likely Ukraine will go to blackout for a very long period of time. Furthermore, let's return back to the recent attack. As we discussed, the Russians were attacking the settlement of Kremenchuk, but the Russians were attacking not the city itself. According to information we have, the Russians attacked the Kremenchuk oil refinery, and this video was published this morning, and here we can see how a civilian from this area was making a film, was making a video, and we can see lots of explosions somewhere on the horizon. And according to geolocation, this is the Kremenchuk oil refinery, and the Russians attacked this territory with drones and missiles. The sources reported that Russians used just Iskander missiles, and the Russians used up to 4 Iskander missiles according to the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. So they published this information. So Russians used up to 4 Iskander missiles. So few pro-Russian sources stated that the Kremenchuk oil refinery was completely destroyed. And this is a very important object of energy infrastructure of Ukraine. And if this information is correct, if this information is true, that the Russians managed to destroy this oil refinery, of course this will worsen the common situation in Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. And first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. The Russians continue their offensive operation, and according to information we have, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly on the Russian side of the river of Gaichul. The Russians stated that they managed to capture the Dachная Street, the Naberezhnaya Street, and the Russians entered the Donetskaya Street. So this territory is already, most likely, under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Just yesterday, pro-Russian sources stated that the Russians managed to get the city limits, and now we have report that the Russians finished the battle for the northern part of the settlement, which is located on the Russian side of the river of Gaichul. As of now, we still haven't received anything that can prove this. The only video we have from this area is this one, where we can see how Russians were suggesting and proposing Ukrainians to surrender using these artillery strikes and trying to send as many as possible lists suggesting Ukrainians to make the right decision. At the same time, several pro-Russian sources stated, very reliable pro-Russian sources stated, that during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly in the area of the village by the name of Zelenoye, and to enter or to approach significantly the southern part of the settlement of Varvarovka. So according to several pro-Russian sources, this territory was also captured by Russians by the morning of the 7th of December of 2025, which means that the village of Varvarovka was caught in pincers, and now the Russians are advancing in the central direction, both from the northern and from the southern parts. At the same time, the Ukrainians continue their counterattacks in this area. I would like to remind you that several days ago, the Ukrainians counterattacked in the area of Dobropolye and restored control over the central part, but the Ukrainians decided not to develop their counteroffensive operation further due to significant risks. The Ukrainians decided to counterattack Russians now in the northern flank between the villages of Pokrovsk and Velika Mikhailovka. This video was published this morning on the 7th of December of 2025, and here we can see the comparison between the 21st of November and the 7th of December, between these two dates. On the 21st of November, the Russians captured the settlement, and during the first episodes, we can see Russians that were raising their flags during the 21st of November. But on the 5th of December, the Ukrainians counterattacked, or by the end of the 5th of December, the Ukrainians finished their counteroffensive operation, and Ukrainians also raised their flags. So two flags were raised raised through the settlement of Tikhoe. First one was raised in the western part, the second one in the eastern part. So based on this video, we came to conclusion that Ukrainians, as a result of counter-offensive operation, managed to restore control over the settlement. We don't think that Ukrainians are going to move further. This is their new tactics. As we discussed in the previous video, the Russians currently are tasked just to capture the settlement of Gulyai-Polye in this area. So that is why the Russians brought everything they have in this direction. They took all reserves, all free hands from every single direction and sent them there. So that is why the Ukrainians decided to use this advantageous situation, and they began counterattacks, small counterattacks, through the entire front line between the settlements of Velika Mikhailovka and Dobropolye itself. And Ukrainians most likely will continue using these tactics. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Pokrovsk direction. We have three important videos from this area. So this is the first one that took place, that was published by pro-Russian sources, and this video was made above the TO515 road. And during this video we can see dozens of vehicles that were destroyed during the battle for the cities of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Dozens, maybe even hundreds of vehicles of the armed forces of Ukraine were destroyed during their attempts to restore control or to stabilize the situation through the city of Pokrovsk. So Ukraine, according to information we have, paid significant price for the battle of Pokrovsk, and now we see that this battle and this price leads nowhere. The Russians either are about to finish the battle for cities of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd or have already done this. So we can see hundreds of vehicles that were destroyed. The second video was published a bit further from the northwestern direction, from the area between the villages of Grishina and Shevchenka. And here we can see the same story, another cemetery of vehicles of the Western production. Here we can see lots of vehicles that were destroyed. Here we can see a Ukrainian soldier that was moving along this tree line towards positions, and here we can see 4, 5 or even 6 vehicles of the armed forces of Ukraine that were destroyed. So we see that the cemetery of Western weapon is located not just in the area of the cities of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. The entire territory most likely is filled with destroyed vehicles of the Western production. And the third video, probably the most important video, was published from the northern part of the city of Pokrovsk. This is the video I'm talking about. And here we can see a building in the northern part, and here we can see two Ukrainian soldiers that raised the flag of the 7th Corps and the Ukrainian flag. So 3 soldiers, not even 2, 3 soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine. And this episode was geolocated, and this episode, according to information we have, took place several days ago, and it happened right exactly in this area. So as of now we haven't adjusted the map because we don't know how to adjust the map, obviously, and the sources stated that the video was made several days ago, but we don't know the exact date when this video was made. But anyway, the geolocation is very interesting. So let's wait for additional updates, let's wait for more mappers and experts to give their own opinion regarding the situation in this area. But there are very high chances that Ukrainians in the northern part of the city of Pokrovsk also were able to carry out a successful counter-offensive operation that led to probably restoring control over the most northern part of the city. So as of now, we're not adjusting the map, but we will do this in coming days or maybe even in coming hours. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Seversk direction. The situation in this area continue worsening for the armed forces of Ukraine. We have changes on the ground. As you can see, the most important changes are coming from the city of Seversk itself. This is the situation by the end of the 6th of December. The Russians improved their positions in the eastern part of the city according to pro-Ukrainian sources, and by the morning of the 7th of December we have colored this territory in the complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. We have at least 2 videos, now we have 1 video and we have at least 2 episodes from this video where we can see positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation on the territory of the eastern part of the city of Seversk. This video was made by pro-Ukrainian sources, and this video confirms Russian control over the territory. So 2 episodes. One of the episodes of this video took place in this area, the second one here. So based on this video we came to the conclusion that the Russians are getting stronger and stronger control over the eastern part of the city of Seversk, and that Russians are getting deeper and deeper. According to this configuration of the map, we can make a conclusion that currently Russians control up to 25% of the city of Seversk, and that the Russians continue advancing. Most likely in coming weeks, Ukrainians would be forced to fall back first from the eastern part of the railways, then from the eastern part of the river of Bakhmutka. Most likely Ukrainians will be able to hold the Russians on the western bank, but it's just a matter of time, because the Russians at the same time intensify their offensive operation in the direction of the settlement by the name of Zakitna, which is located on the Ukrainian side of the river of Seversky Donets. Today, several pro-Russian sources stated that Russians managed to answer the settlement of Zakitna, and that there are very heavy clashes on the territory of the village. At the same time, several pro-Russian mappers adjusted their maps by showing additional control around the city, around the village, without entering the village itself. So this is the situation by the end of the 6th of December, and this is the morning of the 7th of December. So the Russians are about to establish complete control over the settlement of Zakitna, and if this village falls, then Ukrainians will not be able to hold their positions in the territory of the city of Seversk for too long. They will be forced to fall back, and the entire Seversk defense layer will collapse. And now let's discuss the situation in the Kupiansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, a video was published from the central part of the city. This video was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how Russians attacked positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the central part of the city of Kupiansk in the area of the Zaskolye micro-district. So here we can see an attack on positions of the armed forces of Ukraine right exactly at this point. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that Ukrainians continue their counter-offensive operation in the area of the city of Kupiansk, and it seems that if Ukrainians continue the same way, it seems that Ukrainians will be able to restore control over a very huge part of the city of Kupiansk, and maybe even they will be able to create a road for evacuation of Ukrainian soldiers on the Ukrainian side of the river, on the Russian side of the river Oskol. So the situation is very difficult, and we see that the Russians began losing the ground. And that's it for the short video. Military summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.